Anything else?
7 o'clock, call the meeting to order. Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show all board members are present. Mr. Board, has public notice been given?
Yes, it has.
Great, shout outs and celebrations.
All right, I don't know if I've received any. Ms. Coleman, have you received any? Okay, no shout outs tonight.
On to public comment. For policy 0167.3, anyone wishing to participate in the period of public comment must be a resident of the Richland School District, the parent or legal guardian of an enrolled district student or an enrolled district student. Persons wishing to participate must be physically present at the meeting and must register in advance. The total time allotment of 30 minutes will be given for public comment. Each participant shall be given 3 minutes to address the board. Speakers are not permitted to make inflammatory comments, use inappropriate language or gestures, attack specific persons, or make a specific person the subject of the remarks. Please see policy 0167.3 for a complete list of requirements and restrictions. If a person is unable to adhere to these rules, they may be directed to end their comments. Mrs. Coleman.
No public comment.
Thank you. On to reports. District Administrator's report.
Okay, just a couple of dates for the board. First of all, one reminder that you have a board governance special board meeting next Wednesday, the 19th at 7 o'clock. We've got that on your calendar. And there is no second board meeting a regular scheduled board meeting in November due to the Thanksgiving holidays. So your next regular scheduled board meeting would be December 10th, the second Wednesday in December. And then just a reminder for any staff or students or parents that are listening, there is no school on Wednesday, November 26th this year. Traditionally, that had been an early out day, the day before Thanksgiving. That is a no school for teachers or staff or students. And so they will have the Thanksgiving break from the 26th through December 30th. Wednesday, November 26th is a date that the district is open. The high school, primary school, intermediate school district office, those offices are open just as they normally would be. But teachers and students will not be here. Thursday, the 27th and Friday, the 28th, those are actual district closed days. So nobody will be in any of the offices on those days. And then lastly, the board will be getting an update at the December 10th meeting, a little bit more in depth by Dr. Johnson regarding our district report card that just was released by DPI yesterday. But I wanted to share with the board that the district, second year in a row, the district receives 3 report cards. We receive a district-wide report card, and then we receive a report card for the high school and the intermediate school. Primary does not receive one because they don't do standardized state testing at that level. And our alternate schools did not receive one for this year because last year the enrollment numbers were not high enough for them to issue a report card. There may be identifiable information if the student count is too low. But for the second year in a row, the district as a whole received a 4-star, which is exceeding expectations. And both our intermediate school and high school received that same 4-star rating individually, which again exceeded expectations. So the district is trending in the right direction with its report card, primarily due to the growth that we've experienced with our lower level learners. So, but again, Dr. Johnson will be giving a more thorough update in December on district report cards and individual report cards and how that breaks out. But wanted the board to know, they may have already seen that because it was released yesterday. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you so much.
Board member reports.
The ad hoc construction capital projects committee met tonight. Me being fortunate enough to come in a little late, I was elected chairperson, so I appreciate that for my committee members. We received a capital projects update. The big thing there was we are on track with primary school opening up the classrooms by Christmas. We had a referendum financial report. Right now, we're standing pretty good with what we've got planned. We're gonna keep a contingency of a minimum of 500,000 till we're further into projects and to know exactly where we stand. We did talk about the change orders, and the change orders are when we have a construction project that's planned out, they get into it, they find something that's not quite right, and they have to make changes to it, updates, stuff like that. So we just need to do approval on that. Some of that is on the packet tonight. And with that, we will be meeting again soon and have more discussions of what's coming.
The school district foundation met on October 20th. We wrapped up the outstanding alumni discussion and we discussed about things that we could do to improve the change how it went. I think in my tenure, this past homecoming presentation was probably the best we had. We actually moved it into the LGI, had a reception beforehand in the East Commons. And had a video presentation, and so we just talked about ways that we can tweak that to make that even better. And then we're also working on changing how we are displaying the outstanding alumni recipients. Like working with our tech ed department and we're working on getting some mock-ups on how we can better display those, because right now they're banners that are hanging up in along the ceiling in the East Commons. Most people don't even realize that they're there. We're looking into doing something different about that. And then also the scholarship application for the seniors is now open for them to be able to start filling out that paperwork to be able to be awarded money for going to school, whatever that looks like for next year.
Thank you. Student council report.
Push the.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David DeDune, the parliamentarian for the Student Council. I'm here to give the Student Council report on what we've been working on recently. Our events committee successfully hosted the blood drive, which had a great turnout, and they will begin planning for the next one soon. Our student services spent some time cleaning out and organizing the leadership closet, which will make it easier for us to find supplies and stay organized for upcoming events. The Community Service Committee wrote thank you notes for the veterans in honor of Veterans Day. They were delivered to local veterans to show our appreciation for their service. Our fundraising committee is in the process of planning for the wrestling concessions on December 20th, and they're working hard to make sure everything runs smoothly for that event. And finally, a few members from our student council had a Zoom call with River Valley Student Council. We discussed school policies and shared ideas on how both schools are handling things like our new phone ban. It was a great opportunity to connect and exchange perspectives and try to help them reconcile the possibility of them losing their beloved devices. That wraps up our current updates. Thank you for your time and continued support of our student council. Floor is open to any questions. Going once, going twice. So thank you, guys.
Thank you for doing that.
Charter governance board report.
Okay, so Dr. Johnson had put a report in the, which hopefully you got a chance to watch beforehand, just some quick highlights. If you have any questions, she's here tonight, but they reviewed, she talked about the charter governance board reviewing budgets, discussed some upcoming student activities for Hive and partners with some field trips and a science project in conjunction with the high school construction class. They agreed that they were going to create a dedicated partner handbook for students and family. And then they voted to rename the group from the ROA to the Richland Charter School Governance Board so that it can reflect oversight on both of them. Those are just some highlights. Hopefully get a chance to watch the video, but if you have any questions, again, Dr. Johnson is here tonight and I'm sure she's more than capable of answering them for you. Awesome, thank you.
The exit interview report.
Amber Bingham is our HR director. She had presented this report to what's known as the Personnel Committee, and then as committees ended, this kind of got delayed a little bit, but she wanted to get it on for the board to see. Again, hopefully you got a chance to watch that. Just again, some highlights. She's been conducting interviews, exit interviews for about 3 years now, over 60 employees. Most of them, or I should say an average of about 9 years of tenure. Staff generally viewed their experience with the Richland School District as positive. 83% rated it very positive. 85% said they would recommend the district to others. And nearly 90% reported good relationships with supervisors. Some common concerns included increased workload without additional time, inconsistent student discipline and support, and communication gap between buildings. And then the departing staff praised the district's caring culture, teamwork, benefits, but also suggested continue to focus on improving communication, workload, balance, and discipline. So those are some general things. Ms. Bingham is not here tonight, but if you have any questions for her, you can let me know now and we'll bring them back, or if you think of some after the meeting, you can certainly email me. We'll get you some answers and then bring it back to the board as well. Okay, thank you.
State test data report.
Okay, so Dr. Johnson gave a report, a presentation on our state test data. We reviewed the 24-25 student assessment data, which includes board exam, pre-ACT, ACT, and AP. Our result trends mostly parallel state averages. Some of the strengths were that our science scored surpassed state averages in multiple grades. Areas of improvement, our math performance has declined across several grades. Curriculum updates, teacher training, PLC collaboration are being used to try to strengthen the math instruction. In the beginning of this year, all students enrolled in AP classes will be required to take the AP exam, and that will better gauge course effectiveness and identify if additional supports needed there. We did have a question from that was submitted prior about what we are doing to address some of the concerns and some of the areas that were performing lower. I'll let Dr. Johnson address that question first, and if the board has any additional questions, they can direct them to her as well. Go ahead.
Good evening. The main portion that I would point out when it comes to some of the needs that we might have, including the math data that you saw, would be some things to consider. We've replaced almost all of our math curriculum now. In my tenure here, we just replaced the middle school math, which I'm guessing, I think is about 13 years old. It was on an 8-year cycle, which is an odd one. I don't know how that happened before I was here, but so essentially I think that as we have new resources and the staff gets well-trained on these resources, and we eliminate or cut down on staff turnover, especially in some of those departments, that's going to make a huge difference. But the staff training for me is going to be a big focus as we move forward. And then the PLC, transitioning our staff from the what will I teach to what do students need to learn, that is going to be a huge shift for student learning. So we will really be focusing more on what kids need instead of what we are delivering. So I think between all of those things, the gap should shrink, but it takes a little while. So the data you just saw was from the 24-25 school year. So like the elementary update that we did in the resource, they just done it for like 8 months. They've been doing that math resource. So the teachers were new to it, students were new to it. Again, the middle school is going to have a little adjustment too, because they just are getting it this year. So those are all things to consider, not excuses, just things for me to kind of file away and to document, like, okay, let's make good choices based on this data. And what is this telling us? We need to strengthen our staff and our students, and especially in the area of math. That's a really long way to say it, but that's just an example. I'd say math or instructional supports like training teachers is going to be the best thing we can do through the PLC process all the way around for all content areas.
Any other questions from board members?
Is the specific data shared during PLC time with the teacher so that they can see, okay, my grades are affected this way, or they're.
That's a good question. So in the high school anyway, I met with every content area this in May before they left for the summer, because I wanted them to know what the data looked like before they started making plans in the summer. So we were able to kind of dive into it then. But the PLC process and some of this data-driven work that we're doing is still kind of new for us. And so it's like drinking out of a fire hose. Sometimes you just experienced it by watching my video. That's what it's like for our staff too, to try to digest all this information. I'm trying to help them understand. It took me several years to understand it too. So as we all get better about that, it'll be better. But yes, they're given that information. We also have CERT, which is the College Equipped Readiness Tool. It's kind of like if you remember MAPS testing when you were younger, it's like that, but for high school, it mimics an ACT and students get their results right away. So that's another data point that can help to fill in some of these gaps. So students and staff kind of know where they stand.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Again, for any of these presentations, if some come up later, just shoot me an email or give me a call and we'll get you some answers. We'll make sure you're informed. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Great. About the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes, October 29th, 2025?
So move.
Motion made by Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Donovan. Discussion? Mr. Bailey.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. And two financial items, approval of statement of cash and invoices.
Sorry, I do have something here. I'd like to make the motion to approve the statement of cash dated November 5th, 2025. Approve Community First. And approve Community First General Checking Account checks number 87677 through 87741. And ACH number 252603. 869 through 252603969. EFT number 202500081 through 202500109. Minus voided checks number 252603814 for a net total of $813,937.89. This is for the purpose of the general operating costs of the district.
Motion was made by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Thompson. Mr. Bowser, anything you want to point out or add?
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Discussion? Mr. Doudna?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
The bond proceeds update.
Okay, so the board knows that we borrowed money in two different phases, 12.16 phase, most recently a $15 million phase in 2024. And then until that money is being drawn out and spent on projects, it's earning interest with PMA. And so Mr. Bosworth can give an update on where we stand with those proceeds from those bonds earning interest.
We looked at this a couple of months ago, and the projected earnings were about $4,000 more than they are today. That's basically because interest rates have dropped just a little bit. The majority of our remaining bond proceeds, and we've spent about $10.8 million to date of the 27.16. The remaining money, the majority of it is invested in fixed assets, fixed return assets. So they're not going to be that affected by interest rates dropping, but we do have a couple $1 million in liquid investments, which would be a little bit more affected by dropping interest rates. But it's still pretty close, right? The projection was 1.394 before, and now we're at 1.391 million, so really, really unchanged. I should also ask, we've asked Nexus for an updated draw schedule. That's just their estimate of how much money is going to be required to be spent each month, and that's what PMA uses to base their investments off of. They know, okay, in 3 months, this much money is going to be due, so they time the investments to come due at that time. And so if that were to change, right, if more money were to be required sooner than the draw schedule had shown, that would mean we'd be pulling money out of those investments. So that could potentially decrease these projected earnings, but Craig from Nexus said that he thought the most recent draw schedule he'd given us a few months ago still looked accurate. We're waiting for an updated one. Indications were it shouldn't change too much. So I don't see this number changing too much in the future.
Any questions for Mr. Bosworth? All right. Mrs. Coleman, consent agenda items?
Motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Motion to accept the donation of $900 from CK Norman Development. Motion to accept the donation of winter clothing valued at approximately $1,500 from Amazon Hub Deliveries Together We Give. Motion to accept the donation of classroom snacks valued at approximately $160 from Amber and Dustin Monless. Motion to accept the donation of $1,127 from Hornet Football Summer Camps Incorporated. Motion to accept the donation of snacks valued at approximately $200 from the Richland Center Shopping News. Motion to accept the donation of $500 from the Highland Haunted Hayride. Motion to approve one open enrollment in application and deny one open enrollment in application due to space resource limitations for the 2025-26 school year as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Donovan, is there a second?
Seconded.
Second, Mr. Miller. Mr. Porter, anything you want to point out or add?
I do not.
We have a motion to second, any discussion? Mrs. Sharp?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Is there a motion to approve the modified agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Bailey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Axel, discussion? Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Alright, information and discussion items. The drug-free communities grant update. Drug-free communities grant update.
Okay, so the drug-free communities grant update, all right, so I had shared with you that our business office, especially being down one, we could handle continuing the grant as long as Betsy Bracelet was in her role, or if we got somebody experienced in her role, but that we didn't have the resources to train somebody new. So we were looking at other avenues for the drug-free community grants to sit. All right, I had shared that many of these grants, it's housed with Health and Human Services. All right. In addition, we're now in year 7 out of 10. We won't be eligible for another renewal. We've already got the renewal. And if the work that the grant is doing is to be sustainable, it really can't live with the school district, because if it lives with the school district, there's almost zero chance that we're going to have the resources and the extra funds to keep it going, right? We were the fiduciary, it worked. Like most grant money, it's all great when it first comes in as a seed, but to keep it sustainable is a problem. And so we've been looking for another entity to take on the fiduciary role of the grant. And in working with Betsy, we believe we have a plan. However, due to the governmental shutdown, any federal grants, we can't get any answers on right now, nor have we been able to for the last 40 days or so. And so hopefully, when those folks start working and being able to answer questions again, we will get some of the questions answered and to see if the plan that we have can come to fruition. Now, I spoke with her today via email, and I can't share with you the plan yet because the entity that is looking at potentially taking it on has to jump through some of their own internal hoops, and they don't necessarily want it public, right? And so I'm hoping in the coming weeks that we will be able to share with you that we have a plan to transition the grant to another entity, someone who will be able to not only keep it through the life of the grant, but has a much higher chance of keeping it sustainable and all of the work that is being done in the community. We would probably have to enter into an MOU with that entity to be able to do some of the same things that Ms. Reitzler was able to do being housed in the district. In that meantime, we're operating status quo. Betsy's continuing to stay on. She's prolonging her retirement. We're continuing to do what we can do to support that from a financial standpoint and be the liaison between that. But we're very, very optimistic that we've got a plan that not only places it in an entity that we think can do a lot of good, but more importantly, can keep it intact post-grant funding. I'm excited to be able to share that when I can, but I can't right now. But I will answer any general questions that you might have regarding that, but I am optimistic. Any questions? Thank you.
Board member terms.
Okay, so at the last board meeting at the end of October, I had incorrectly told you that Mr. Bailey and Mr. Donovan, I believe, were up for terms as well as our appointed person. I was looking one line down below that, and that is not accurate, so I want to make sure that we get it corrected. So for the April 2026 elections, Ms. Troxel, who is holding a position that's an area fill, it's an at-large position. So anyone that lives in the Richland School District boundaries is eligible for an at-large position, along with Ms. Troxel, should she choose to run again. That position will be up for election in April of this next year. Ms. Sharp's position, Ms. Sharp took the position of when Robin Dickman resigned. She took the position in the last of the 3-year term. Therefore, that term is up for election in April of 2026. And so that position will also be eligible, and it will be a full term starting in April of 26 for 3 years. And Ms. Sharp also represents Area 4, which is an at-large position. So again, anyone who is an at-large. And so the way that will work for those two positions is there will be a candidate pool, and the top 2 vote getters will get the 2 at-large positions. Okay, that's how that would work. And then Ms. Thompson, she took the position that was vacated by Lee Van Landijk. That position represents Area 1 East, and Area 1 East consists of Henrietta, Orion, Rockbridge, the town of Richland, Univista, and Willow townships. Okay, so those townships there, if someone is a member of those townships, a resident of those townships, and a resident of the Richland School District, some of those townships also represent other school districts, then they would be eligible to run. Ms. Thompson, when she was appointed to fill the 2nd year of the term that was vacated. And then she would run, or that position would run for re-election for the 3rd year in April. Okay, so hypothetically, if Ms. Thompson runs again, then she would run in April of 2026 for 1 year, and then that term is actually up for re-election again in April of 2027 for the full term. All right, so the person could potentially be running 2 consecutive years. I believe Mr. Bailey had to run 3 consecutive years, so that's the record for right now. You do have in your memo there where everybody sits, what positions they represent, and when their terms end. But for this upcoming election, it will be Sheila Troxel, Jill Sharp, and Tiffany Thompson's position. Candidacy papers will be available in the district office after the 1st of December. And then incumbents would have until late December. I don't have the official date in front of me, but late December to declare candidacy or non-candidacy. And then the rest of the general public has about 1 more week to decide. So if someone is not running, make sure that you are filling out your non-candidacy paperwork. And then the general public has another week or so to decide if they want to run. That's general information. I want to make sure that that was corrected and on the record for being corrected, that Mr. Bailey and Mr. Doudna are not up, and they will not be up until the 2027 election. We're trying to get rid of here. Any questions from the board on terms or elections or what needs to happen? Incumbents or others? Okay, thank you, and I apologize for the error, but hopefully that is now corrected.
Referendum financial update, change orders, and alternate projects.
Okay, so this is, again, just for information. We don't need to make any decisions at this point. Our ad hoc capital projects and construction committee met, as Mr. Doudna referenced earlier this evening. They were given the same information. I'm going to start off by just walking you through the financial update halfway down through this memo. So the top section, the very first section, these are items that were bid upon. Okay, the general scope was bid and awarded, and the bids came in either over budget, which would be indicated with a positive number in red, that would be bad for all practical purposes, or under budget, and they're indicated with a negative number in green, okay, which would be good for us. So we started off back in June of last year, 2024. The roofing project came in at almost $1 million under budget. The primary school came in over budget. The intermediate school came in under budget. High school was over budget. And then the district-wide, these are things like camera upgrades that cover multiple buildings, internet infrastructure, those kinds of things. Those were within the scope. We haven't overspent, we haven't underspent. There's no savings or extra cost at this point, so that's budget neutral. And so if you take a look at where we're at with those 5 projects, 2 being over, 2 being under, and 1 being neutral, we have a net savings or under budget of $594,000, just under $600,000 of additional money that we could spend. Okay. Then the next section includes things that the board has already committed to, and these projects are completed. That includes the 3 IMC upgrades for about $600,000 approved at various dates, but those are completed. The McKinstry Group initial fee to do the initial assessment. McKinstry Group is the group that is going through all of our assets, maintenance, and putting a expected life expectancy on them. Provide a full report on when things need to be replaced and how long they think things will last and the cost that it will take to replace. They had to come in and do an initial assessment on that, and this initial fee covers that as well as the first couple of years of this subscription, and then it's an ongoing fee, much less than that, that will be taken out of budget in future years. And then finally, the board approved at the end of August a change order for all of the soil corrections that needed to take place at the primary school. That was about $500,000. That included the sinking classrooms, getting the foundation for that secure, as well as the asphalt and the parking lanes and the new parking lot at the primary school. So all of those board commitments that have already been committed, that amounts to 1.2 million. Okay, and so that leaves us with a net savings or deficit, deficit in this case of about $650,000. Okay, so if you take the $600,000 up above, it was a savings, and the 1.25, that's an add-on, that leaves us in the hole, so to speak, of about $650,000. But we had plenty of money to cover that with the contingencies that we had and the bond proceeds that Mr. Bosworth talked about earlier. And so if you subtract all of those, that net $650,000 out of the contingency, okay, so the $748,000, this is remaining contingency that we have for future projects. That $650,000 has already been removed from there. And you add in the almost $1.4 million of bond proceeds, that leaves us with $1.5 million in funds remaining. Okay, I misspoke there. So if you add those two numbers up there, the 1.4, the 700, and then add back in the 650,000, our final number that we have is 1.5 of uncommitted funds. Okay. Let me pause right there to see if there's any questions from the board. This is basically historical things, bids that we've had and projects that have already been approved. Does the board have any questions on that? Or the $1.5 million in remaining?
Just for clarification, so the soil corrections at RCPS are not included in that top part of the chart of the primary school being the plus 717?
That is correct. The overage in budget for the primary school was mostly due to what was originally budgeted or thought to be budgeted was 2 classrooms, ended up being 4 classrooms. That was the overage there. And then on top of that, we had the soil corrections.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions regarding that? So in summary, you can certainly look at it and happy to answer any questions line by line, but in summary, as it sits today, right, where we're at with all of the bids and what we know has been done and what contingencies we know and what we're expecting for bond proceeds, we have about $1.5 million in extra money. Okay. That includes their contingencies though. So that means when they get into the intermediate school and they open up a wall and realize something was done wrong or is faulty, that has to come out of the 1.5 moving forward. And that's as it sits to date, or at least as of November 4th. All right, then down below, these are, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total projects that we got bids on at the direction of the then Buildings and Property and Transportation Committee. And so I'll go through those, and they're broken up into projects that we are recommending the board move forward with sooner rather than later. Again, this is just for information, so this will come back in December. And then projects that we're not saying are things that we don't think should be done. We're saying there's no benefit in doing them right away, and you can wait and see what things end up being. We're just talking through all 7 of these projects. The bathroom remodels, these are full bathroom upgrades for the 3 public bathrooms in the high school. These are full gut jobs, right? New fixtures, new sinks, new tile, new everything. They'll basically mimic what, if you've been down to the primary school and saw the new bathrooms down there, they'll mimic those. This would be for the restrooms down on the athletic end, the restrooms just down the next hallway here, the main bathrooms for students in public here, and then the bathrooms down on the west end by the band and choir and the auditorium. Okay, those 3 bathrooms would get a full bathroom remodel. The original scope was just some upgrade painting and some upgraded sink and counter fixtures, but not new urinals, toilets, tile, those kinds of things. And so this would, again, mimic what is currently at the primary school and what will be done at the intermediate school. The Hive Drive, the $167,000, that's our estimated cost, our portion, in splitting it with the city. The city has a grant, and so same challenges that we're facing with the DFC and getting answers. I'm sure they're experiencing some of the same delays. So we're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern. We're still optimistic because that price was quoted with people doing some of the work up here at the high school and being able to take advantage of this, the scope of project, having heavy equipment on site. If it gets delayed too long, they may have to go out for bid, or they'll still have to go out for bid, but they may get someone else to be able to do it, or one of the people that are currently doing it, but it'll be out of the timeline and that may increase the cost. So we're still kind of waiting to see on that. The intermediate school health upgrades, this is really health and counselor upgrades. Moving the counselor and the nurse at the intermediate school from the office to the area right across the hallway and renovating that so that the nurse has a little bit more privacy and also an area for students to be at in that with the nurse, as well as a seclusion room and a counseling room for our counselor. And then that would open up space in our intermediate school office for a conference room and a back room for kind of dual exit. That would come in at $69,000, and this is a firm price. And then primary school painting upgrades, this would be an epoxy paint and orange and black stripe on the hallways of all the main hallways. So down the second grade wing and then the entire main hallways in the primary school. If you've been down there, it needs paint. After the construction, it needs paint even more. So that is a firm price on being able to do that. Jumping down to the things that we're kind of recommending to hold, at least right now, would be some bus lane improvements. We had Nexus and the engineers, civil engineers, do some concepts of what would it look like to kind of mimic what we do up here at the high school, where all the buses are kind of angled in at an angle. And that's gonna be at a cost of about $190,000. Adding some additional parking stalls out in front at the primary school. Parking is a little tight at the end of the day. This would give us about 10 to 12 additional parking stalls at a cost of about $23,500. And then similar painting upgrades at the intermediate school for $25,000 for all of the main hallways there. We're recommending to move forward with the first four. Again, this is just for information now, but the reason for recommending moving forward with the first four is that they're going to be doing the scope of work for the high school. And if they bid them out at this price as being able to do it while they're on site as an upgrade. If we could do this later on, but it would be at a more costly price than the $175,000. Hive Drive, we've talked about moving forward with that. Intermediate school, same situation. We can do those upgrades at the end of everything, okay? But it's going to be much more costly to do it after everything's done than it is to be able to do it while the construction companies are on site. And then the painting upgrades at the primary school, our recommendation there is, for $20,000, let's get that so that that place is finished. Once our kindergarten classrooms are done and we've made the move, let's get that painted so that all of those public spaces are newly painted and look great with our new lighting and everything there. Why we're suggesting to wait on the other three is that the intermediate school bus lane improvement, and that look, when we started that project, we anticipated buses, having more buses and extending down further to the south, which is the entrance of the intermediate school. As it turns out, we only have one or two buses on the south side of the building. So it is much more condensed than we originally thought. And so we may not need to spend the money on that because it's a much more efficient system than what we anticipated. Had it been spread out, we were able to move buses up to the north further, which created some space to not have to go down to the south as far. We're recommending, so we're kind of taking a wait and see approach with that. We're recommending waiting on the parking stalls because asphalt companies can't lay asphalt anymore. And so this has to wait anyway, so there's no reason to commit to it at this particular moment in time. And it's not tied to anything else. We can add that at any time. And then the intermediate school painting upgrades, waiting until the construction is done at the intermediate school before we do that. All of that coupled with the fact that we now are in the process of purchasing new property at campus for $1. We've had Nexus come in and in early December, they will be giving us a facility assessment, not a facility assessment, a project's budget. Here are the things that you have to fix. Here are the things you should fix. Here are the things that you could fix and some prices that are allocated with that. So the recommendation is if we want to move forward with those top projects, let's do them because they'll come at a cost savings now. But the others, let's wait and see, and let's let the ad hoc committee and ultimately the board look at what Nexus says. What is this going to cost us to make some of the upgrades to the campus property? And what does that leave us with money remaining? In addition, because that the $1.5 million includes contingencies, Nexus is telling us right off the bat, you have to save some money for a contingency. You can't just go spend it all right now. So they're recommending saving $500,000 until we get further into those projects at the intermediate school and high school, and then kind of wait and see. So if we did the recommended projects, that would leave us with about $1 million. If we have to save 500,000 in contingency, it would leave us with about 500,000 that we could start acting on right away, whether it's at the campus or some of these projects. And then kind of take a wait and see approach with the rest. So that's a lot of talking, but again, this is just for information. What questions do you have? Ad hoc committee, if I missed anything that I shared with you, jump in and add your thoughts or something that I missed, but open for discussion.
I think one thing, sorry, my voice, that I just want to remind the public that the bathrooms are 30 years old. So I don't know if people, sometimes everything is referred to as the
New high
new
school.
high school, but the bathrooms are 30 years old and so they need some updating.
Turn it back over to you, Chair, or President.
Great, the district vacancies and appointments.
I don't know if there was any other questions. They were just gonna have a lead discussion, so I'm sorry. I didn't.
Any other questions?
Sort of answer anything. So, I mean, you can jump to the next one if you want, but I'm happy to answer any questions. So. Okay, so right now the timeline is that the ad hoc committee is going to meet in early December. We're hoping that Nexus can provide them with a report and that then that can come to the December 10th board meeting after our going through the committee. If it can't get to a committee beforehand, then it likely will just come right to the board. Is that accurate, Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Or on that committee? Okay. All right. With that, now I'll turn it back over to you for the next slide.
Yeah.
All right.
The district vacancies and appointments.
All right, and I apologize, I have this as 10 a.m. my agenda, so usually it's first, but, so we do have 4.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what it is, posted, so. We have 4 vacancies right now. I've talked about the drug-free communities, project coordinator, that's kind of on hold until we get a little bit more guidance there. We have 2 night custodians, both up here at the high school. I believe they're doing interviews for those positions tomorrow, so hopefully we will have those positions filled. And then we just had some openings that we posted here in the last 8 to 10 days for the behavioral tech position that we need to fill at the iThrive Academy. We're fortunate to be able to borrow some of the staff from the Motivate over in Reedsburg, and now they'll be transitioning back, but it's great to have their help, but we've got a couple of vacancies that we need to fill. And I thrive for that. So that's open. Actually, that just closed. So we'll be looking at applicants and getting interviews for those. Any questions regarding that? It's not too bad on vacancies right now, especially after tomorrow. If we can get a couple of custodians, we leave the rest of them. Anytime there's a vacancy, right, it's a burden on everybody else. Everybody's got to do just a little bit more or a little less somewhere else. Covered. Okay.
It's action items, award snowplowing bid for 2025-26.
Okay, so the board saw timeline and specs back in September. And then we had bids, we opened the bids, we had 2 bids. One was from Waldner Landscaping and one was from Advanced Contracting. And they submitted the bids. The bids are included for your viewing reference, but Waldner Landscaping came in as the low bid, and they are the bid that we are recommending the board approve. It comes with a cost savings of approximately 50% from last year, and it would cover snow plowing the upper and lower lots of the high school, campus parking lots, Melville Hall, as well as salting of all of our properties. That would be the recommendation to approve Waldner Landscaping for the 25-26 school year.
So with the scope of work. I noticed that it does not include plowing at the primary school, the intermediate school. You taking care of that?
We take care of that internally, yes.
And then I know that we delayed that a little bit for due diligence. I'm just very surprised at the cost difference between the two contracts, so it makes me a little nervous that the level of work that will be done is actually up to our expectations.
Yep.
Are there any contingencies that we might have in place to?
Well, we've done our due diligence, checked references, and, we don't know why people underbid. Sometimes it's just to get their foot in the door and then try to, show the district that they can do a good job, and then they may need to raise them later. If they can't fulfill the services, then we would not, continue with them, and we would have to, either do an emergency plan or go out for bid, shortest timeframe to try to get new bids. For them.
I hope it works.
I do too. It would not be the first time that we've had somebody that wants to get into the business, submit a bid that's substantially lower and turned out to be very good, but by the same token, we can't guarantee that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, is there a motion to approve a service contract with Waltner Landscaping for snow plowing and salting within the district for the 2025-26 school year as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Mrs. Sharp. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thompson, discussion? Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Rescind contracted services with Evergreen Leadership Group LLC.
Okay, so back in August, the board approved moving forward with the Evergreen Leadership Group, ELG, to guide the district through some strategic planning that will be taking place here, starting at the end of December and moving, the vast majority of the work would be next, after the first of the year into next spring. Since that decision had happened, there's been some concerns that there's a very close connection with the Sun Prairie School District, and Sun Prairie is going through some public struggles. And so in our conversations with the Evergreen Leadership Group, they completely understand that and are willing to let us rescind the contract without penalty. They understand the public perception that's taking place. And so the recommendation is that while we're committed to the strategic planning process, that we rescind our contract with the Evergreen Leadership Group for strategic planning. Any questions?
Is there a motion to rescind the contract approved on August 11th, 2025 with Evergreen Leadership Group LLC for strategic planning?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Miller, discussion? Mr. Troxel?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Contracted service agreement with the Donovan Group LLC for strategic planning.
Okay, so as this came about, then obviously we started looking at what some other options were. The Donovan Group is a very, very reputable company. They work exclusively with K-12 school districts, and they've primarily got their footing for providing communication, specifically crisis communication, right? So school districts that don't have a marketing and communications director can contract with the Donovan Group for general communications, but where they excel is that school districts can use them, and as we would, should an unfortunate or a crisis situation happen. They will guide districts all over the state and the country in these kinds of things. So that's kind of how they've gotten their niche, working with K-12 school districts. But in recent years, they have also taken on the ability to do strategic planning. Again, very reputable company. They have put together a proposal. The Evergreen Leadership Group, their bid, just for full transparency, was for $15,000 to guide us through the strategic planning process. Plus, on top of the $15,000, any expenses that they incurred, the three of them, for mileage, meals, and any miscellaneous expenses or things that they incurred, estimated to be, $3,2,500, which puts us at kind of an all-in cost of about $17,500. The updated contract that's proposed here for the Donovan Group is $22,000, but it's all inclusive. Okay, so it's not quite the $7,000 difference when you factor in both things. In addition, we would get 2 additional months of service with the Donovan Group. The Evergreen leadership contract was for a 6-month period. The Donovan contract is for an 8-month period. Okay, so again, you add the additional months in that you're getting, then the cost isn't really that much difference. And finally, I would say, the Evergreen leadership group, that was a group of 3 people. The Donovan Group is an army of people. Okay, they have a full staff that is fully committed. Obviously, they're very good in communication because that's where they held their niche, being able to get things out there. If you just look at the PDF that's attached, the timeline, I mean, this was something that they were able to produce in a matter of 4 or 5 hours for us. It's a very professional looking flyer that outlays everything. And if you look at that process, it still aligns with the timeline that our board wanted, starting in December and January, developing some steering committees, having the events in February, March, or right around there, follow up with the steering committees, and then be able to have rollout and communication to our board and public for the start of the 26-27 school year. So everything that I'm seeing from the Donovan Group, we would have gotten plus some. It does come in a little bit more of a cost, but truthfully, strategic planning, I think a case could be made that might be the single most important expense the school district can spend. So in my opinion, the $3,000 of extra money for the services that we're getting in a reputable company, I think is well. That's up for the board to decide, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board? All right, then, is there a motion to approve the contracted services with the Donovan Group LLC for strategic planning as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Made by Ms. Troxel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Sharp. Discussion? Aye.
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 And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Dowd. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Troxel. Discussion? Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Don't forget your homework, everybody.
Didn't bother me.
Let's see if